Hey Carrie, how are you?
I'm really, really well. So I've been looking forward to speaking to you because you are the founder and managing director of Mindcanyon. That's correct, isn't it?
That's right, yes, it's in the background.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
actually got it here on my laptop as well, so I'm just checking you out as we speak. But rather than me kind of explaining what you do, out of your own words, do you want to tell me a little bit about what you guys stand for and what you do for the industry?
yeah, absolutely. I think it's in the interest of everyone, really, if I tell you a little bit about me and how the business began as well. Um, 5, 6 years ago now, as in fact 6 years ago, I was working for a very large corporate organisation when I experienced a mental health breakdown in the workplace. And sadly, at the time, there was nobody available for me to speak to about my mental health. And so I was signed off work with work related stress. And in that month off, I kind of thought it's going to be difficult going back because I wasn't able to tell my line managers, direct line managers, that it was mental health related. So back just 6 years ago, we couldn't openly talk about mental health as much as we can now. So when I went back into the workplace, I was invited into a meeting where I was asked if I would mind going on to something called a performance improvement plan. And for those people that aren't aware of those, it's a really great way for an organisation to monitor a person's performance within the organisation. Now, again, at the time, in hindsight, it was the right thing to do because I simply couldn't talk about mental health. And so they thought it was performance related. I went along with it, it was. And sadly, within a month, I was managed out of the business. That very same month, I attempted to end my life by suicide. And so I went along to my doctor and asked them for help. And it was at this point that I was diagnosed with high function anxiety, PTSD, unresolved childhood trauma, depression, and work related stress and addiction. I had an option then to go home and simply watch Jeremy Kyle and comatose myself, so that wasn't really an option, or to pack all of my belongings into a bag and walk the entire length of Britain in recovery.
Wow. And do you know what? It's such a touching story, but I think there's probably thousands of people that are in this same boat and they don't really feel like they can come forward. So it must take some bravery to come forward, especially as a male. How did it feel when you eventually came forward and asked for help? And were people receptive for you asking for help?
Do you know, it was such a relief when I did ask for help, but I need to make people aware of this. It wasn't easy. It was not easy. So, from a very young age, a lot of us guys are conditioned not to talk about our mental health or to ask for help. And we find this more so within, for guys, especially within the construction industry. And sadly, they don't talk about their mental health because from a very early age, we're told like big boys don't cry, man up, it's weak to speak. We're seen as the alpha males, that
Yeah.
we have to be this leading role when that's just not the case. Men need to know that it's okay to ask for help, and we need to remember that asking for help isn't about giving up, it's about not giving up. But again, going back to the conditioning, is we're told by our parents when we're younger, big boys don't cry, man up, stop being such a girl. And that had happened to me when I was younger. So it actually took me 25 years to be able to ask for help, knowing that when I did go to ask for help, that they would say thank you and my experiences would be validated and I would be valued. One of the first things that my GP said to me was this: when I went in to ask for help, she said, thank you. And because of her words, because she thanked me for going in, that enabled me to go on to make a full recovery. So prior to that, I was concerned, I was worried that I wouldn't be valued, wouldn't be listened to, because we hear all these horror stories around mental health that people haven't got the time, and we see it depicted negatively within media and social media. It scares men asking for help because they know that they'll be shut down. And this is why I created my business whilst walking the entire length of Britain in recovery, finding out what help was available, but also saying, you know what, I'm a man, it's all right to say these things, to ask for help, to reach out for help. So 6 years when I created my business on a mobile phone, I was in recovery, but I knew what I was doing and why I wanted to create this, because a lot of people within organisations like myself were struggling, as they are now. You think about this pandemic that we've all gone through. I don't know anybody's mental health that hasn't been impacted in some way.
Yeah, I can agree on that. And the thing is, with we specialise in construction, and I believe that construction has got the highest suicide rate of any industry in the UK, which is quite concerning. And you were speaking there before about yourself asking for help, but do you think that maybe people who are managers or have some figure of authority need to kind of identify this in people and maybe listen a little bit better?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Construction industry has got the highest fatality rate of any industry. So we know that 2 construction workers per day end their life by suicide. Now, fortunately for myself, this last year, even though it's been underpinned by negativity, I've been working with a lot of construction organisations and businesses on delivering mental health first aid, mental health awareness, mental health champion courses. But most recently, a lot of construction organisations are approaching me about the suicide first aid course and the suicide first aid light course, because there's a common myth around suicide that if we ask a person if they're thinking about suicide, that's not put this idea into their head. And again, it's a myth. What we need to be doing is asking the person if they're thinking about suicide. But the most important part, which I'd like to touch on what you said, was the listening. What do we do when somebody says yes? More often than not, we simply need to listen. We need to acknowledge their pain, what they're going through, but be there to listen to them. So you've probably heard this, that these sayings where we need to talk more. It's okay to talk, and we see these campaigns where saying it's good to talk. That's wonderful, and it is. It's a great starting point. But what we really need to know is there somebody there that's equipped to just listen? That's what most people need. They need to be heard.
Yeah, and some people just need to offload, don't they, so that they feel like they've not got all the weight on their shoulders, and sometimes that can really help them. And going back to your training, what you've just mentioned then, I suppose it could be a really good idea if, say, a big construction company took a group training session, and some people in that group still might not want to come forward and speak, but they get then the information relayed, and they might have a different look on it, and then they might speak up later. So there's so many benefits to what you're doing. So in regards to that aspect, can you tell me a little bit more about the way that you deliver the training? If it's on site, can you do it online? How can people get involved in this?
Yeah, really great question. And do you know what? That comes up quite a lot. How can we get involved? Because our time is precious. We haven't got an entire day where you can come to us. So what's the best way around this? Actually, most of the courses, in fact, 90% of the courses that are being delivered to the construction industry are via Zoom, are via platforms like this, just because they could be anywhere within the country. And we know with construction that, they can be working anywhere in the country. So what we tend to do is have a conversation with the construction firm and say, let's set a time, maybe 2 hours a day, for over a couple of weeks, every day, where your guys can attend it from anywhere where they are. So what we do is everything is virtual. So that way, we're thinking about COVID and the restrictions and the likelihood of another lockdown. So what we've been doing is delivering it all virtual, so anyone can log in from anywhere. And we have different courses. So we've got a full day, 2-day course that can be split into 4 sessions. So no session will be longer than 2.5 hours, because let's face it, people's attention span, we switch off after two.
I think I'm around probably about 30 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. People need to go and use the toilet. They've got lives to lead.
Yeah,
We've got all these things that we're doing as well. So no session is longer than 2.5 hours. We can split it down into what works best for the client. There's so many different options. We've got the 1-day course that we can split down into a couple of hours as well, 3-4 days. There's so much now that can be done that's all virtual, that works in favour of the construction and the people.
Good. Now, I'm looking on your website and I've noticed you've got a subscribe button. So your website, just so people know, www.mindcanyon.co.uk. So if people want to come on here and subscribe, what are they going to receive from yourselves? What is it you send out to them?
Yeah, thank you. Really good question. So we do a weekly newsletter, a weekly roundup of what we've seen from the industry and what's new in mental health as well. And also they get the option for early bird tickets. So we run open courses, I run open courses once every 3 months. So the next open suicide first aid course is in March of next year, then every 3 months, and they get early warning of any mental health first aid courses coming up.
That's awesome. So the next available course is that March then? The next one is March?
Yeah, so the next open suicide first aid course is in March, and then we will be doing many mental health first aid courses throughout the year, probably every quarter again, and those are going to go up, and the dates are going to go up in the new year.
Fantastic. So if there's anybody watching this today and they feel like they might benefit from the one that you've got coming up in March, with Christmas coming, with a potential lockdown, etc., how can they enroll on this course?
So there is another tab. There's another tab on the website that says Suicide First Aid Open Course, and it is available there for people to register on the course already. So that's all up and going on the website. Like you say, www.mindcanyon.co.uk. If we have a look at the other tabs you've got across there as well, we specialise in mental health first aid and suicide first aid training, specifically within construction as well. And there's a great video there of saying the importance of talking about mental health, but asking a person if they're having thoughts of suicide. And again, just to reiterate to people, it's not weak to speak, and it's certainly, we need to remember that asking for help isn't about giving up, it's about not giving up.
It's the start of the journey for them as well, isn't it? For the new chapter of their life, to shut the door on whatever it was that was making them feel the way that they was feeling. And it's nice to know that there's people out there that will support that, but not just support it. You've been through it yourself to the extreme of walking. How long did it take you to walk from one side of the country to the other side?
It was such an amazing experience, and one of the reasons why I did that is because, one, I'd lost my job, but two, again, speaking from experience of poor mental health and a mental illness, sadly what I didn't mention was that very same month when my employment had been terminated, I attempted to end my life by suicide multiple times, and I knew then that I needed to break away from the life that I was leading. I needed to get away, and so what I did was I decided to walk the entire length of Britain in recovery, raising awareness for both mental health and homelessness. It was televised on ITV and BBC, but what my main objectives was to raise awareness for men, specifically men, because you know that we find it difficult to ask for help. We hide our feelings, can't talk about them because we don't know how. And then when we do, more often than not, we get shut down. So I decided to walk Britain, and it took 90 days, 3 months to walk from one end to the other.
Oh,
It was the most amazing experience. Have you ever heard that song by the Proclaimers that go, I would walk 500 miles?
Yeah. I have Scottish blood. I'm sure that comes from Scotland. So where did you start the walk from, and where did it finish?
It started Land's End, so way down south, and then other end of the country. Some of the experiences I had though were absolutely phenomenal. I've just had the best experiences of life, but even though I was carrying this 30 kilogram backpack from Land's End to John O'Groats. By the time I got to the other end, so many people wanted to help and were helping. Because I put the message out there that it's okay to ask for help. So people were going, how can we get involved? And I grew a Facebook group of 11,000 people in a group within...
Wow.
Had a phenomenal following, but it just goes to show, doesn't it, that when we ask for help, people want to help, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help.
And the Facebook group that you was just talking about, is that still active, or do you have any active groups like that that anybody can join?
I don't have the group any longer because it was taking up all of my time into the group. And it's literally there all of the time. And as much as I wanted to help people, I thought that and felt that I helped more people by delivering the training to organisations than to the people that were just struggling. What I wanted people to know was, how can they access help before they get to that point of struggling? So I offer proactive and reactive interventions. So proactive is, how do we keep people well in the first place so they don't go to the mental health first aider? But what do we do once they've been to the mental health first aider? How do we support people then? How do we have conversations? So I work from the top downwards, and I believe everybody needs to read from the same page when it comes to mental health. So I suggest it comes from the top downwards, that people that own the businesses, the managers, the CEOs, all need to have some kind of training within mental health.
I actually agree. We're having some ourselves with you, aren't we, as well, from Total? So that's going to be interesting. We're sending, in fact, all of our staff are going to do it. We're going to put every single one of them on there. Now, I'm wondering, do you work directly with any charities that are in this similar area that specialise in construction, suicide prevention, depression for this industry?
Yeah, I certainly do. I work with a wonderful charity called Lighthouse Charity that do some absolutely phenomenal work on supporting those in construction. So I am one of their trainers, I'm one of their educators, and I deliver training for Lighthouse Charity. Please do. For anyone that's listening, please do check them out. They're a wonderful charity supporting anybody within the construction industry, from delivering training to offering grants to those that need it most. And they've got a wonderful helpline and app for anybody that is struggling in the construction industry. Also work for a wonderful charity called Grassroots. They are a suicide prevention charity, and I also deliver training for many organisations, especially up north, Lancashire Mind and Birmingham Mind, lots of different Mind charities to help people that are struggling with their mental health.
Awesome. I know the charities personally direct as well, and I can vouch for them that they are absolutely amazing. So the links on the bottom of the screen, please visit those links and check out those charities. Now, have you got any final words? What you really want to send a message to the people watching? Let's try and get, what's the best message? Having done this experience yourself, what can you say? Final words to try and encourage people not to suffer in silence.
Asking for help is not about giving up, it's about not giving up.
So that's a clear message that we want to get out there to you guys today. Come forward, speak to somebody. Please go on the website of Mindcanyon and subscribe, get the weekly newsletters, see what courses are available. And we're going to keep kind of splashing you on Total's pages as well, so that we can keep reminding people that you guys exist. So thank you so much for taking time out to come and speak to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I think you're an inspiration, and the story of you walking all the way up Great Britain is just something else, and I might need to interview you again in regards to that topic on its own. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for your time, and let's reach out to more people, save more lives.
Let's do that. That's a plan.